you've seen that the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee has postponed the hearing or the meeting that they were going to have on a contempt citation for the secretary from today, while the secretary is in Egypt or was in Egypt and is now in Paris, until Tuesday, when I presume, but please let us know, that he's aware that the secretary will be in New York on Tuesday, and that the time of the hearing, which is scheduled for 10 a.m. on Tuesday, is literally like 20 minutes before President Biden is supposed to speak at the General Assembly. Do you think that HVAC's, or at least the chairman's efforts to go after accountability on this are serious, or are they just screwing with you?
Let me say a few things about it. Number one, first of all, we are glad that the committee finally recognized that the secretary does have important foreign policy business to carry out on behalf of the United States. We told them weeks ago that he would be in the Middle East this week on the date when they said that they wanted to have a hearing today. We told them that he would not be in the United States, that he would be traveling overseas to try to reach a ceasefire to the conflict in Gaza. They went ahead and scheduled the hearing for that date anyway and threatened him in contempt if he didn't show up on a day when we had told them that he would be out carrying out these important foreign policy duties. Glad that they moved the hearing from today until Tuesday in recognition that he's not here. But once again, they have unilaterally selected a date when we have told them in advance that he will be not in Washington, D.C., because he will be elsewhere in carrying out important meetings to advance the foreign policy interests of the United States. To give you an example of what some of those meetings he will be having next week are. Number one, he will be participating in a United Nations Security Council debate on the war in Ukraine. We expect President Zelensky to be at that meeting. We expect the Russian foreign minister to be at that meeting. Well, we obviously think it's in the interest of the United States that the United States be represented at that meeting by the Secretary of State to defend the United States interests. He is going to convene a meeting of the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drugs, which the Secretary founded to try to fight the scourge of fentanyl trafficking. Chairman McCall himself has said that the United States needs to work with its allies and partners to do more to address fentanyl trafficking. Well, that's what the Secretary is doing next Tuesday in New York. This is a meeting that has been long scheduled with foreign ministers and other foreign leaders that we are intent on carrying out because of the important foreign policy, because of the important outcomes that we expect to have from that meeting. He also will attend other bilateral meetings. He will be with the president. The president is speaking to the General Assembly that day. The president will be having other meetings, and the secretary will be attending those meetings with the president. So he has important duties to carry out at the General Assembly. Now, I will reiterate what we have told the committee privately and what I have said publicly, which is the secretary is willing to come and testify before that committee. We have said we are willing to work with him on a date that is mutually agreeable, but obviously they can't just set a date when he has scheduled meetings to go participate in a Security Council meeting or convene this meeting to address fentanyl any more than he could be there today when he was in the Middle East trying to reach a ceasefire. That is not the type of accommodation that the Supreme Court has said the Congress must carry out under the Constitution. So if they are intent on having a hearing next Tuesday, we will again make another witness available. And if they don't want to have it Tuesday, if they can have it another day, we will make the secretary available, but we expect the committee to work with us through the constitutionally mandated accommodation process.
Well, at the moment, do you think that they're actually serious about wanting to conduct oversight?
Look,
or do you think that there's some kind of a political agenda at play here?
So it very much does not appear that they're acting in good faith. When we tell them weeks in advance that on Thursday, September 19th, the secretary is going to be in the Middle East. You can't be in the Middle East and appear before a congressional hearing in Washington, D.C. at the same time. And they set a hearing for that date anyway. And then when we get close to it and they realize, oh, yeah, he actually is in the Middle East. And so they moved a hearing to Tuesday when we have told them that he is going to be in New York carrying out these important meetings, and they schedule it anyway and threaten him in contempt rather than hold it on another date. There's nothing magic about next Tuesday. They could hold the hearing on another date. We've said we'd make the secretary available on another date. So when they are not willing to take yes for an answer, I think it does call into question whether they're acting in good faith.
So are you saying that if Congress is supposed to be in recess the week after next, I believe, if they were to, or at least members of this committee were to come back into session, the secretary, while he is in DC, before any other potential travel that's coming up in the second week of October, that he would be willing to appear?
So I'm not going to negotiate a date in public. That's what we can do.
No, I'm not asking you, but the idea is, that they have raised is that, well, we're going to be in recess, Congress has raised, we're going to be in recess. So if the secretary was asked to appear, and the committee, at least the members of the committee, would be willing to come back to Washington or to not be on their vacation, he would do that in the first week of October?
So I can't commit to a specific date or a specific week here. Obviously, I'd have to look at the secretary's calendar, and we would want to discuss this with the committee first. But what we have told them is, while he's not available to testify on the dates that they've picked, we want to work with him on the next date that is mutually available to both us and the committee, and we're committed to doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jillian.
Question on Iran.